In the North Pole, Jack and a number of scientists are drilling in the North Pole for sampling when suddenly the polar ice breaks and Jack realizes that the entire ice sheet has broken. A few days later, Jack warns all world leaders at a United Nations conference about climate change, stating that if fossil fuels are not abandoned, the Earth will be destroyed. However, world leaders ignore Jack's word, and outside the conference, people notice snowfall for the first time in Delhi, leaving everyone amazed. Meanwhile, Jack meets with an acquaintance, Terry, and they talk. Until a few days later, at Terry's monitoring station, an employee notices a drastic drop in temperature displayed by a buoy, but they don't tell Terry anything. Meanwhile, in Japan, large hailstorms begin. An unprecedented hurricane occurs in America. Meanwhile, Jack's son Sam, along with his friends, goes to New York, but they get caught in a storm during the journey. Meanwhile, Sam notices that birds are scared and want to flee. The situation worsens until the President of the United States suspends airplane flights and holds an emergency meeting on the matter. However, Jack uses information from Terry in this conference, stating that all of this is happening due to the warming of the North Atlantic current. An ice age is about to begin. However, the president tells him he has 48 hours to find evidence for his claims, but Jack and his colleagues conduct their own research in less than 48 hours and say that there are only 6 to 5 months left until the ice age begins. Meanwhile, people rush to supermarkets out of fear, gathering food, but Jack tells the deputy president about everything, which he doesn't believe. Meanwhile, the situation worsens in Europe until several helicopters go to rescue the queen, but the helicopters freeze and crash. Meanwhile, the situation in New York is also not good, and Sam and JD try to save JD's brother, but when they go outside, they realize that everywhere is polluted and the water is increasing. Meanwhile, everyone goes to the National Library, but when Laura tries to save some people, something strong happens, and Sam saves Laura. Meanwhile, Jack realizes that their research was wrong and there are only 24 hours left until the ice age. Meanwhile, Sam calls Jack and tells him everything, asking Jack to stay at the National Library. Meanwhile, Jack wants everyone to go from north to south to be safe, and he follows Sam. Meanwhile, people come to Mexico and Mexico closed its border until it agrees with the President of the United States. In New York, we see a cargo ship coming to the surface of the city, and after a few hours, everyone realizes that everywhere is frozen and everyone leaves the library, but they regret leaving there because of the cold weather. Meanwhile, Sam tries to burn all the books in the library, but realizes that Laura is injured and her condition is worse. Meanwhile, JD and Sam go for food and medicine, but suddenly wolves come after Sam and JD, but still they escape enduring food and medicine. Meanwhile, the President of the United States gets stuck in a storm, and from space they notice a high cloud. Meanwhile, Jack comes to New York and realizes that everywhere is frozen, and finally finds his son safe and sound. Finally, we realize that the sky has become sunny and the army comes to help the survivors.